they couldn't find her heartbeat, and they were like, she needs to come out on the next one. If she doesn't come out, then I remember the doctor looking at me in the eyes, Jordan coming over and be like, right, you've got to get her out now.
Welcome to Parents You've Got This and We've Got You, the new podcast for brand new parents from Tommee Tippee. I'm Jilly Isabella, a new parent in the thick of it. Each week I'm joined by a guest star and a parenting professional, and together we're going to cut through the noise with real stories and expert advice to help you navigate pregnancy, the newborn days and early parenthood. Let's share the highs, the lows, everything in between. No fluff, zero judgment, just real talk. You've got this and we've got you. On today's episode, we are diving into the world of birth plans. Are they worthwhile or are they bullshit? Today, I'm joined, very excited, with Emily Blackwell, influencer and mum. You've got a wee girl called Eva.
Yeah, that's right.
How old is she now?
10 months.
10 months.
Yeah.
She's coming into some big milestones. We're chatting a wee bit now. She's saying some words.
Oh, no. Oh, no? Well, not like words that make much sense.
Not full sentences, no.
But we're getting some of her own little dialogue, her own language. Yeah, she's in full swing of that.
We've got all that to look forward to. And then our expert for today's episode is Midwife Pip. How long have you been a midwife for, Pip?
Been a midwife since 2012, a little while.
A long while. What's the most rewarding part of the job?
Oh, do you know what? Every single day is completely different.
Yeah.
And watching like that journey of a woman become a mother, like it doesn't matter if it's the first time or the fifth time, it's just utter magic.
It is magic. It is the closest thing in the world, I think, to what we would perceive as magic. So today's episode, we're diving into the world of birth plans. I am a control freak. I'll put my hands up to it. So for my birth, I did have a plan. But I think today it would just be nice to explore the differences in women, you know, if that's their cup of tea or if it's not. Emily, you had quite a not a traditional way into birth because you went really early. So birth plans kind of went out the window for you.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm like you, control freak. I had a plan, but nothing went to plan.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, I feel like maybe no plan's the best plan.
Yeah, that's nice. And it's also, I suppose it's quite nice going into something of the unknown to know that if it doesn't go to plan, you did have a plan, we'll be absolutely fine because Eva was great and you were in great hands with the healthcare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it was definitely, I mean, at the time it was obviously so scary, but also I kind of didn't know any different. I had nothing to compare it to.
It was your reality.
My first kind of what I wanted was the complete opposite to what I got. Obviously I wanted, you know, a full-term pregnancy with a C-section booked in. Lovely. Well, I'm not sure it's that lovely, but you know,
and
that was my plan. Yeah. That's what I wanted. And I ended up giving birth naturally, vaginally. I don't know what you can say these days, but giving birth the other way. And within, I think, about 2 hours.
Wow, yeah.
And it all happened really quickly. Yeah. So for that though, it was like my body just told me what I was doing. Yeah. My body led me.
Your instincts, yeah.
Yeah, not even a C-section I could even enter my brain at that point. It was just, this is what's happening.
Get the baby out.
Yeah, this is what you're doing. And there I was just pushing away with breathing techniques and no pain relief. So it was,
Good for you. Yeah, I can't wait to get more into your birth story. But Pip, this might seem like a really obvious question. What actually is a birth plan? They can look all different. It can be printed out, it can be written down, it can be electronic. So from a medical standpoint, what actually is a birth plan?
Yeah, it's such a good question because I think on the surface it feels really simple, doesn't it? And so often I'll see women come to me with like their list essentially of what they want to happen during birth, which is helpful in some instances, but we have to remember that birth isn't like a shopping list. We can't write down, like you, Emily, you couldn't write down like, I want to have a planned section, and then Eva had completely different kind of other plans for you. So we need to think of a birth plan as like, yes, it's useful to communicate some of those things that are important to you, but equally it's not like set in stone. It needs to be flexible. It doesn't really matter whether it's electronic, whether it's written down, whether it's on notes on your partner's phone. It really doesn't matter. What's important is that you use a birth plan as your process of gathering information. So it needs to be your place of identifying, okay, what am I really worried about for birth? Is it that I'm really triggered by the idea of an induction of labour or of vaginal examinations or of different modes of monitoring or, you know, instrumental birth? What are those things that feel really concerning to you? And then I really recommend using your kind of creation of a birth plan to delve into the details of those things that feel concerning, because we have to be transparent with families that intervention happens. The latest research shows that over 50% of birth have some kind of intervention, yet most women's birth plans are either like yours, Emily, like planned cesarean section, or the complete opposite of wanting like minimal intervention, all very kind of low risk and natural or spontaneous. But actually there's a massive amount that happens in between that, you know, a huge thing. And often that's where women have some fears. So actually use your birth plan to make plans for the things that you don't really want to happen, because they're often the plans that protect us against things like birth trauma far more than the plans that are all like completely physiological and the things that ideally everyone wants you to achieve.
Yeah, I like what you said about flexibility in it, because I think with birth and going into labour, a lot of it, if you're a first time mum, is the unknown and being scared of the unknown. So I think going into your labour, being flexible, having the knowledge and knowing these are the different things that can happen, but also finding power in, okay, I'm going to be flexible. So if things are out of my control, it's okay, because I know that things are going to be okay. I'm in trusted hands of the healthcare providers. Really excited to hear about your birth story, Emily. So take us back. What were those first signs that you thought, oh, this could actually be happening?
Oh my gosh. So the first, well, I didn't really think that I was in labour, to be honest with you. I just thought that I was, so on the Thursday I had just a small bleed, and I went into the hospital and they said, don't worry, like we'll monitor you for 24 hours, but a lot of the time it can be quite normal, can't it? Like if, as long as they say it's brown blood, this is what they said to me, if it's brown blood, it's not fresh, it's like, you know, I don't know, get something to do with your cervix. But they checked that, everything seemed fine, had my scan, baby was happy, everything seemed okay. They discharged me, I went home. And then that evening, about 24 hours after that, I just started to get these pains that like went from my back to my front. And I just thought, again, being a first time mum, you have no clue. Like for me, I thought that giving birth is like what you see in the films. Like I thought when you're in labour, you are screaming in pain, you are sweating. Like naively, I had no idea that it starts off small and gradually builds. Like you just don't really know, do you? Yeah. So yeah, I started to get this pain that started in my back and kind of went to my front. But again, I did not think I was 29 weeks. So I thought, oh, it's just Braxton Hicks. And then I thought to myself, if I can sleep through this, like, then, you know, I'm sure I'm not in labour or anything. You know, I felt okay. And I did. I woke up the next morning. I was like, okay, that's fine. It's gone. And then I got up out of my bed and I was like, oh, it's back. And so I said to Sean, look, let's just go in and, you know, just get this.
Better be safe than sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And when I went in there, I was like 3 centimetres dilated. And they just turned to me and they were like, you're 3 centimetres dilated. We'll try and give you things to slow down the pregnancy or to stop it. And you can be on bed rest for the rest of your, like, we basically need to keep the baby in as long as we can. Mm-hmm. However, sometimes your body and the baby, they have other ideas. So we might not be able to stop it at this point. And you kind of just at that point have to trust your body and just think, okay, well, whatever's going to happen, my body is going to, and the baby is going to do what it has to do, right? Mm-hmm. And literally, and I knew straight away, I was like, nah, there's no stopping this. This is like, she's coming. Yeah. And then I think I got into the hospital around 2:30 and I gave birth at 4.
So quick.
I think I went from 3 to 9 centimeters dilated. They struggled to get a room for me. Before, like, I was lying on the bed. They just got me into a birthing suite. Is that what it's called? And then my waters broke, and I was like, what the hell is that?
This is like the movies now.
No, I was like, what was that? I thought I was bleeding. I was like, oh my God, I'm bleeding. And they're like, no, that's your waters. I was like, wow. Okay, it's happening. It was weird. It was like a water.
Yeah.
And and then she said to me, right, I said, please, I need an epidural. Like at this point, the pain was, I'm not going to lie, it was a lot. And I said, oh, can I please have some sort of pain relief? And she was just like, you can't, it's too late. You're just going to have to breathe through this. I did try the gas air, but it made me throw up. So I was like, forget it. That's not working. And they had to obviously inject me with a lot of things. I think it was called magnesium sulfate and some other steroid stuff, obviously to help the baby for her lungs and for her brain development and things like that. That stuff, this magnesium sulfate that they injected me with, that can make you feel really weird. It like makes your whole body heat up. Like it's actually quite horrible, that injection, but you're just so in the moment. And then honestly, like at one point, so she said, right, you're ready to start pushing now, and I think it must have been 3 pushes and she was out, but on one of them they couldn't find her heartbeat, and they were like, she looked at me and she was just like, she needs to come out on the next one. If she doesn't come out, then like then I remember the doctor looking at me in the eyes, Jordan coming over and be like, right, you've got to get her out now. And I don't know what comes over you. I mean, as a woman, it was just like, I thought, no, she is not coming out dead. I've watched this. This is not happening. And I just went for it, and she came out and she was crying. It was, they did pre-warn me. They said, look, as soon as she comes out, we're gonna have to put her in a plastic bag. Do not be alarmed. It's just because we have to keep her warm. And you know what? Because she was crying, I really wanted to do delayed cord clamping, because I read loads about the benefits of it, and you know, and I obviously, because she was so premature, she needed help breathing. Her lungs were obviously so not developed. They weren't sure, but because she came out crying, they were quite happy to leave her for a little bit, and we did the delayed cord clamping. Yeah, I was quite, like, I don't know, shocked really, I guess, because when you're 29 weeks pregnant, I didn't think I thought genuinely she was going to come out that small. Like, you just have no idea. And I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know if it was like an optical illusion that my brain was doing, but she was like, I don't know, I looked at her and she was crying, and I didn't actually think she looked that small. I don't know, it was like a sigh of relief, and I just thought, oh, she's going to be fine.
How much did she weigh when she came out?
2.8 pounds.
Oh, tiny baby. And it was 29 weeks that you'd went in, right?
29 weeks plus 3 days.
Wow, okay.
And I just remember the midwife saying to me, like, before I give birth, I was like, she can't come out now. And she was like, unfortunately, babies, they just sometimes, you cannot tell them. They just want to come when they want to come.
Yeah, she
There's
was
no
ready
stopping
to meet you.
Yeah. And she said, don't worry, 29 weeks is a great gestational age. I thought, is it? Is it?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Everyone's telling me 40 weeks is full term.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're you know,
Yeah.
I don't know if she was trying to calm me down or what, because I was in obviously a complete state.
Yeah.
But I just remember looking at her and thinking, she's gonna be fine. It was weird. Yeah. It was like I just knew. And she's a thriving little queen.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing, because I could imagine, I mean, I was feeling almost a little bit emotional when you were talking about that there, because must have been a lot of different emotions you were feeling, but I'm sure there's probably a lot of people that are listening that has resonated with that. Emily touched on there that she wanted to do delayed cord clamping. You got to have that experience, which was fantastic. What are the benefits of doing delayed cord clamping? What actually even is it?
Yeah, so delayed cord clamping is literally, once your baby's born, they have the umbilical cord that is still attached to their placenta, and it is the process of delaying it. So rather than immediately clamping the cord and cutting it so they're separated from that placenta, allowing them to continue to receive the blood and nutrients through the umbilical cord. Now, actually, by delaying it just for 60 seconds, which is such a short period of time, has phenomenal health benefits for babies. So it helps reduce things like infections, anemia, really, really powerful. We can do it for longer than 60 seconds. So you can do it until the cord is completely white and there's no blood left in it at all. The benefits are a bit like a bell curve. So they really peak at 60 seconds. So we always aim for 60 seconds, even with preterm babies, even with cesarean sections. We always try and get that bit. And then the benefits continue, but they're just not quite as vast as that initial period after that 60 seconds.
And it can be quite a nice bonding experience as well for the birthing partner, from them to cut the umbilical cord where they've not kind of really been involved in bringing physically the baby into the world. It's that nice moment for them as well to cut the cord. Definitely.
And during delayed cord clamping, you can have loads of skin to skin with your baby, but actually lots of skin to skin during that time is brilliant. So you just continue. It's like this big pause afterwards where you can just take a little moment to recognize what you've just done, because it's enormous. It's just your little minute to just take a breath and pause and take it all in, really.
Is there any statistics, Pip, from a medical standpoint of how, you know, like if people are going in early, is that quite common? The midwife mentioned to you, Emily, that 29 weeks is like a good gestational age, which is quite nice for anyone that maybe does have a fear about that, to know, like, if I'm going into that, how okay are me and the baby going to be?
Yeah, such a good question. So what's hopefully reassuring to start with is full term is any time from 37 weeks. So it kind of gives you like an extra 3 weeks in maturity.
Which is a long time.
Yeah, if we compare that versus 40 weeks. And we know that every day and every week counts. So about 8% of babies are born before that 37 weeks. But every kind of week we get is better. It's all like advantageous. So every day, so that's why they were like, if we can just keep her in a few more hours or an extra day, that's fantastic. But the reasons for women going into labour preterm are massively variable. So sometimes it's just one of those things, and that woman's body and that baby are going to come preterm, and that's just the way they were made. Sometimes it's because there's something like infection. So those babies might be slightly more compromised. So the team will always try and look at why has labour started early and what treatment and care do we need. The great thing is Emily was in hospital, so the team could straight away make sure that they could keep baby warm and give you all that protection. I know that you've been breastfeeding as well to help with that kind of immunity for her. And the other thing that I just thought when I was listening to Emily is really powerful is you said that initially you were like, I'm a control freak, I want to have a planned cesarean section, which clearly is vastly different to how your baby was born. But actually you still had elements of control. So you advocating for like delayed cord clamping, even amongst all of those emotions and like chaos and intervention, because you had information. And I think that's what's so powerful. Like we can only make informed choices if we have information, and then we can have control. Even when things don't seem smooth or completely plan A, if we've got that knowledge and that empowerment and we can communicate that, we can still have a really positive birth, even if it's not what we might have written down as our kind of first goal initially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Emily, you're like a great example of things not going to plan, but still having a positive experience, because you did get your delayed clamping. Once Eva did come out, what then happened? What did the birth look like then?
So, like you said, about the preterm births, that again, I had no infection. So the baby was already at that point, had a great starting point, because she was strong because she had no infection. I had no infection. And quite basically what happens is you can't hold your baby for that long. They put her in a plastic bag to keep her warm, to regulate the temperature, and then she is taken straight off to NICU, where they will kind of monitor her for 24 hours just to make sure she doesn't have any brain bleeds. And I mean, there's so much. I could sit here for hours. I almost don't want to scare people, but yeah. And then once they're in a stable state, you can hold your baby, and it's kind of like you just make it your normal. I know it's so weird, but again, because she was my first, I have nothing to compare it to. So everyone's like, oh, it must be awful. And yeah, granted, it was awful. It was petrifying. However, I just thought to myself, this is the card we've been dealt. This is what, for some unknown reason, is what has happened. We just need to get our heads down now and do the best we physically can for her. So that's why I was like so determined to breastfeeding, and not even breastfeeding, but pumping, or just trying to get as much goodness as I can, because for me that kind of felt like the only thing I could do at that point, because the nurses were doing a lot of the other stuff. So that was just the way I thought of it, and my kind of mental reasoning for certain things was just like kind of getting my head down and being like, right, we just need to do what we can in order to get her out. But we just kept thinking, take every day as it comes, and it's so unique. Every journey's different. Even in the NICU, what one baby has, another baby has a completely different journey. And it's so right. Even when I was in there, when you said about every week counts, you'll notice the babies from 24 weeks, 25 weeks, 26 weeks, 27 weeks, 28 weeks, 30 weeks. There's a big difference from a 29 weeker to a 32 weeker in terms of their development, in terms of what they can do. Eva was born hasn't even developed her, they call it a suck swallow reflex, which basically means she couldn't even take a bottle. So she had to get fed by a tube. But that comes, I think, is that 34 weeks? 34 weeks or 32 weeks. So the babies that were born a bit later could straight away go onto a bottle. Like, it's just weird how like every week there's something different in terms of developing. And but then saying that, you have babies in there that are full term, which were more sick than Eva. So it's such a difficult one to like I said, it's so unique and every journey is very different. But Yeah, every minute counts, every day counts.
Pip, can you just explain quickly to us what NICU actually is, what it stands for? It's NICU, so I always used to call it NICU. It's like a nice with a salad, and we were like, what are you talking about? Can you tell us exactly what NICU is?
Yeah, so it stands for Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, which can sound quite intimidating, can't it? And while some babies will spend a good period of time in a NICU, some may just visit for a really fleeting couple of hours, sometimes even just an hour. But I know sort of when we think about intensive care, that sounds really daunting, doesn't it? So that's what it stands for. It can be called other things. So sometimes it's called a special care baby unit. And nationally, we have different levels of kind of baby specialist units. So it may be that sometimes babies are transferred to a unit that can provide a higher level of care, or sometimes they may be stepped down and sent to a local unit that provides a lower level of care. So there is sometimes a little bit of movement on where your baby might go locally to you, depending on sort of what level of intensive care they need.
Women are told from a young age that this is like what our bodies are built for. You know, we're going to go in, we're going to have a straightforward pregnancy, we'll go to the hospital and we'll leave with the baby. But in your experience, Emily, with Eva being in NICU, you had to leave the hospital every day with her still being there, which I just think must have been such a mix of emotions.
That was the toughest bit. I mean, the people at the hospital were so lovely. They let me stay. Like, by staying at the hospital, I felt closer to her, but I knew at some point I needed to take the jump and do that awful walk out the hospital without my baby. And I was dreading that moment. I thought, oh my God. And then I think it got to about day 3 and I was, hadn't slept and I just needed to get out of there. And I just thought, right, and I was dreading it because I've obviously, you walk out and you see even people in the lift with their little, their car seats with their full-term big chunky babies in, looking all happy, taking photos. And I didn't want to be that person to be like, oh God, like
But it's so valid for you to grieve,
but I was like,
you thought you were going to have, like, so that you're so within your rights to feel that way.
Even when I got home and I had, not that I had much stuff bought, but I did have a few things, and just seeing those things whilst I was at home, I just broke down because I was like, oh my God, like this so
isn't the way
wrong.
it should be.
Yeah, this is just, and it's weird, like your body knows. It's like your body is so out of sync because of Mother Nature. You're meant to have your baby on you, you're meant to have your baby with you, and when we're separated, it's like I just didn't, my brain, my body, it was all so, out of sorts.
Wasn't connected.
It was just wild. But the fact that I even managed to get colostrum and my milk to come in, I was so 10 and a half weeks, I think it was, and your body still knows.
It knows.
It's just incredible. So as soon as she was born, I got out colostrum. And then I think 2 or 3 days later, my milk started coming in. And it was just like, how, even though your body, it's just, I can't even explain how weird it is. It just gives you a whole new outlook on, us women and our bodies and what it does. It's truly amazing.
Yeah. Just some points from a medical standpoint of what Emily said there. She said that her body felt as if she wasn't close to her baby, and it's almost like a primal thing, like the mother needs to be close to the baby, and then her colostrum coming in. It would just be interesting to hear from a medical standpoint how our bodies are so connected to our babies, and how Emily's body knew that I have to get my colostrum out to help baby Eva.
Yeah, it's so powerful, isn't it? That like intuition and that almost like mother lioness that comes out. And I think nothing quite prepares you for how you feel and that enormous hormonal and emotional shift that happens once your baby's been born. And that separation can be so tough because, like you say, it goes against every ounce of your being that says, be close, be connected. Some of the things that I recommend if mums and babies are separated is things like when you are in NICU, taking videos, taking pictures so you can watch those back. If you're able to have sort of 2 little comforters or teddies and swap them, so when you go away, you take your babies and your baby keeps one. So just those little things that help you to feel connected can be really, really important. The breast milk is phenomenal because we know that especially in a premature baby situation, it's so much more than just like food or fluid or nourishment. It's their most powerful medicine, much more powerful often than anything that we can give from like a medical perspective, because your body has this phenomenal ability to match your baby's specific needs. So we know, for example, like with prematurity and with baby Eva, it was really important to stop her getting any infections if possible. And breast milk is one of the most powerful ways of doing that. And then it continues to adapt. So as she grows, as she picks up other, bugs or viruses, within an hour, your body can notice that and change the composition of your milk to match it and protect them. It's like this incredible ongoing medicine and property that you can give your baby. So it's amazing that your body was able to go, right, this is what she needs, and then start producing it at 29 weeks. Your body actually makes colostrum from about 15 weeks. And then you have this little hormonal balance that tries to keep it all in so that we don't just leak it all out. And then once your baby's born, all your hormones shift to then allow it to start coming through. But we know that can be delayed when there is either birth trauma or physical separation. But in your case, you've had an amazing breastfeeding journey.
I know, I'm still breastfeeding, but
That's
on that,
incredible.
which is just mad.
Yeah.
But on that note, it makes exactly what your baby needs. Sometimes when I pump, and if Eva is ill, you will notice, I notice my breast milk changes colour. So my breast milk, if she's unwell or has a cold, or I'm unwell or I'm getting unwell, I'll pump. A couple of weeks ago, I looked at my breast milk, I was like, I'm going to be ill tomorrow. I just know I am. It's going this funny tingy colour. And no word of a lie, I had a rotten cold for a week the day after. So my body was making antibodies to protect her from catching it. She never got anything.
That's
She didn't
so it was just you drinking your own milk to stop your sickness.
I know, it's funny, isn't
No
it?
milk for baby.
Yeah.
This is for mummy. Mummy's getting sick. Mum's not got the time to be sick.
But how wild is that? And the same for her. If she's sick, my breast milk also goes like a murky, greeny, bluey. It's mad.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
I'm also breastfeeding, and I've noticed when I pump in the morning versus when I pump at nighttime, the colours are different. It's it's almost not as fatty as what it maybe is in the morning. Just to touch on mums that maybe their milk doesn't come through, and that's so common as well. Anyone that's worried, that thinks my body shouldn't be doing that, I'm not a failure for not being able to do that. It's more just what can then the babies go on to then to make sure that those wee babies are still healthy as well. And you can get donated breast milk. From a medical standpoint, what do you then offer for mums that can't breastfeed?
Yeah, such a good question. So yeah, they can have donated breast milk, and there's a whole system in place where that's kind of monitored, regulated, the milk screened by the NHS. So it's not a case of phoning your breastfeeding friend and said, do you reckon you could pump me a bottle? We don't recommend that at all. It's a proper kind of medically set up donation system. And then babies may go on to have infant formula as well. And there can be different formulas for preterm babies that will be advised by your paediatricians. They may also have different vitamins added in and things as well. So you'll be guided depending on your baby's specific needs at that time. It might be that your baby has a combination of breast milk and formula. There's no right or wrong. It's about working out what's working best for the both of you.
So we're moving on to our section now. It's group chat approved. This is things that you're maybe talking about in the group chat with your girls. What I wanted to touch on was placenta encapsulation. So before we dive into this, Pip, can you give us the medical description of what placenta encapsulation actually is?
Yeah, of course. So essentially, your placenta, which is this organ that you grow in the beginning of the second trimester of pregnancy, and it keeps your baby alive. It's like their life support machine through placenta. Phenomenal organ that we make. And then once your baby's born, your placenta has to come out as well. And typically, kind of standard, that's kind of just disposed of by the hospital. You don't do much with it. A second option is that you keep it and have it made into pills. Some people will even have it made into a smoothie to drink afterwards. And the evidence for it isn't really strong. There isn't really an evidence base that says this is a great thing to do that we would actively promote. But there is kind of a little bit of hearsay or a little bit of discussion out there in the world that maybe there's nutrients in the placenta that might be helpful for postnatal recovery. Nutrients is really important after you've had a baby, especially if you're breastfeeding. But we can absolutely get that from other means. It doesn't need to be from placental encapsulation.
So I actually did do this. I gave birth to the placenta, and then I said to the midwife, can you please put that in a cool bag? There's a lady that's going to come and pick that organ up, and she's going to do whatever she does scientifically in her little lab and then bring it back to me in tablet forms. Pip, you said that it was for nutrients, but my motivation behind doing it was to help beat baby blues, because you have such a big hormone drop at as soon as you have the baby, massive hormone drop. And so I was quite conscious of that and trying to make sure that I was doing my best to avoid postnatal depression. I think it worked. I'm not 100% sure. I'm kind of the opinion, listen, if it can't hurt So I was just going to try that. Emily, hearing that now, would you consider, have you heard of this? Is this something that you would consider?
Yeah, so I was actually going to do that because I'm like you. I just thought, well, it can't hurt, you know. But they actually had to send mine off for testing. So I never got it back. So I don't know where mine's gone. Probably in the bin.
It would have been quite small as well. You might not have got as many.
Do you know what? It was still quite, it wasn't that big. I mean, God knows what full term one must look like. It's a big old steak. But mine was like a little fillet steak.
It was rare. It was not well done.
Yeah, it was a rare fillet steak. And it was actually, I was quite impressed with it, to be fair. But yeah, it got sent off for testing. So never got to see it again. Upsetting times. I did get a picture of it though. I'm proud of it, you know.
Absolutely.
Be proud of your
I mean, the
placentas.
fact that we literally grow a full organ, like that's an insane concept.
No one else does that.
No.
Only pregnant women.
Just on the massive drop in hormones, what are some of the things, so if you don't consider doing placenta encapsulation, what are some other things that you can do to help tackle that, to make sure that you do kind of try and stay in a good headspace after the baby comes?
Yeah, you're so right. It's like the most phenomenal hormone drop, bigger than we'll ever have at any other time in our lives. It's enormous. So most women will find there is a hopefully short and self-limiting period of time where they're a bit wobbly. And this is something, when you're doing your birth plan, we need to plan for this bit as well. We need to plan for that postnatal time because it's really raw and really grounding. So just think about, anticipate it. So know there is this period of time that's a bit like the baby blues, and if you're breastfeeding, it tends to happen around the same time as your milk comes in, so around day 3 to 5 quite typically, and hopefully it's short lasting, but you do just feel you're crying for no particular reason. Everything suddenly feels really overwhelming. Your life has just changed enormously. So that's really valid. So just think about what TLC stuff can you have. On those days, can you have a bit of extra support? Is there someone that can give you that bit of extra sleep? Because sleep deprivation makes everything so much harder. And typically you're in the depths of it then. So try and just kind of build like a little bit of a bumper or a bit of a safety net around that time. But also know where you're going to go if it doesn't just go away within the case of a few weeks. Like what that support network can look like for you. Looking after yourself as much as possible is so important. So nutritionally, we know that like breastfeeding mums are burning around 500 extra calories just from making milk, alongside having to recover from pregnancy and postpartum. So giving yourself that grace and making sure that you're nourishing, you're hydrating, you're just looking after yourself, you're getting a bit of fresh air, even if it's 5 minutes walking around the garden, or like just getting out to take in some deep breaths. Hypnobirthing is obviously amazing for birth, but that breath is so powerful in the postpartum, I think. When you are feeling a bit stressed or a bit anxious, a bit overwhelmed, actually using your hypnobirthing breath postpartum is almost one of the best uses of it, I think. So remember some of those techniques.
For those early days when you were leaving NICU, what were how were you getting yourself through that? If there's any advice for any parents that are listening that have been through that, how did you stay positive in such a testing time?
The main things were, we were extremely lucky in the sense that we were at a really great hospital. The doctors and consultants and nurses and the NICU where we were was, it was amazing. So I felt firstly very safe. I felt like she was in good hands. I knew, we were in the right place. In terms of like getting through it, I mean, I think it is just being realistic with the situation. And we were very much told, it isn't, your baby's born, they're going to be in here for X amount of days, and it's going to be just the baby growing. A journey through NICU is like a roller coaster. So, there are some good days, there are some really bad days. It goes like this. And that's the same for pretty much every single baby that's in there. Born around, very preterm. It's just one of those things where there is just so much to it and there's so much you have to go through. So a huge thing would just be take every day as it comes, and it's so much easier said than done with the worrying and the panic, which you are just in a state of fear until your baby's kind of home and safe with you. But it's just, again, like reaching out, there's got some great charities as well if you really needed to speak to. What I found comforting, and I found comfort in finding other parents who had a baby born around the same gestational age as me, whose baby looks healthy, thriving, and great. That is where I found the comfort. So there I was on TikTok. I found some women in America. I found women from around the world. And that's the only thing that helped me. It was knowing that there are other healthy babies that this happens to and they are fine. And the weird thing is, it's not weird, it's an amazing thing. I think the consultant sat me down. They took us to a room just after Eva was born, the day after. And she was very, you know how doctors are, they're very frank, they're very black and white. They don't fluff things up. So she just said, look, at the moment she was born in a really good state. You know, she's in a very good position. She's got no infection. She's doing really well. However, I'm going to, warn you now, it isn't a straight road up. There are bumps along the way, and there was bumps along the way. It's just part and parcel of a NICU journey. And we just were prepared, really. You just, like I said, take every day as it comes. And, they were so observant in there and so good that you kind of have to trust them and what they say. And your baby, you got to have confidence in your baby. Like, I remember the nurse turning around to me and was like, Emily, look at your baby. She's fine. Have confidence in her. Don't worry, look at her. And it is, when you're in a NICU, everything's done on screens, on monitors. So you get so fixated on looking at these monitors, heart rates, pulses, all these different things, oxygen levels. You're fixated on staring at a monitor. And they'll tell you in there, stop staring at the monitor. So stare at the figures, stare at your baby. Look at your baby. Is your baby colourful? Is she changing colour? That is kind of what you need to do. And another thing that we got told was, yes, the doctors and the nurses, they will do whatever they can, but no one is going to know your baby as well as you. So make sure you are spending every single moment you can. It's very difficult when you have multiple kids, you have jobs, it's hard because there's a huge other section where, parents haven't taken their maternity yet and stuff because it's way earlier. So what do they do then? You're struggling for money, you've got other children to look after, you've got bills to pay. It's, I've met some parents in there that could only see their kid, for a couple of hours a day, and there was nothing they could do about it. But it's being as vigilant as you can, making sure that you're there, because no one else will know your baby as better than you will. So, yeah.
And there's so much of a NICU journey, because that wasn't my journey, that I never knew happened. But you saying about knowing your own baby when they are before full term, you must see the growth. Do you not kind of find a little bit of peace in that each day when you did go in, saying, oh, they do look a little bit bigger today, or maybe they got like the suck reflex that you were talking about? But something that I just never considered was, there's no maternity leave yet. I mean, you usually work right up. Maybe if you're self-employed, you're working right up as close as you can. Is there any support groups that you know of, Pip, for people to reach out? You said that you really benefited from finding your community, whether it be through TikTok or anything, but I wonder if there's any actual system set up. Maybe there's charitable systems set up that helps maybe someone going through this that could find their community.
Yeah, there are charitable systems, but I also recommend when you're in NICU and there's other parents there, speak to them, because there's not going to be anything quite as powerful as people that you are potentially seeing day on day walking in the same footsteps as you. So you use that opportunity to ask them questions, speak to them, and build that kind of community of people that you're seeing. But on asking questions, I always say ask questions to the medical practitioners, because NICU or any kind of pregnancy, birth, postpartum journey can feel overwhelming. And sometimes you feel like, oh, I can't ask the doctor that question, or I can't ask the midwife that question. But remember, they're just people too. So ask all those questions. Ask why. Ask kind of what milestones they're looking out for next. Ask if you can change your baby's nappy or touch them. Often families focus on the golden hour. I always see the golden hour in birth plans, and like you want immediate skin to skin and you want to initiate feeding. And if that's not possible, like in a situation like you, Emily, actually just shift that hour. So know that you'll still have that hour, but it might be in 3 hours time, it might be in 3 days time, but as soon as you can, kind of think about, right, this is now going to be our golden hour and these are going to be the things we want to do.
So when did you finally get to bring Eva home?
On Boxing Day. Yeah, so it was like we were so close to having a Christmas, but we were still going. They tend to like to slowly do it slowly, so they take, because obviously you've been staring at monitors, they like to kind of wean you off them, also the parents, not just the babies, before you take them home. So yeah, Boxing Day, which is again though the height of almost going into winter, and it was quite like, obviously I'm so worried about all the germs going around at that time. Like, it was not the best time to have a baby, but yeah, it's going to be a really nice Christmas this year because we're going to, you know, celebrate the fact that we've had her home for a year. But on your point about talking to parents and stuff, that is a really, really good, because it's like your own secret group that no one else really gets unless you're in it. However, one point I will say is try not to worry about because the thing is, I spoke to parents when I was in there, but I then got fixated on what's happened to their baby might happen to mine. So I was like, oh no, like sometimes it made it worse, weirdly. But it is nice to be able to seek comfort that other people are feeling the exact same feels as you. I think just remembering that every journey is different, and what happened to someone's baby isn't necessarily going to happen to yours, and vice versa.
No two babies are the same. And everyone, I always do think that that's such a great way whenever you maybe are spiraling a little bit to always go back to every journey is so unique because every baby is different. So we're on to our section now where we ask an expert, and we have our listeners voice note in something they're going through. So we've got Leonie from the Netherlands, and Pip, she would like to ask you this.
Hi, this is Leonie. I am currently 34 weeks pregnant, so I'm creating my birth plan. And I was wondering, what would be the latest to have your birth plan ready? And aside from that, I was wondering, in what way would you communicate it with the midwives and the team around you during birth? Do you have to print it? Can you bring it on an iPad or on your phone? What's the best way to bring it, really? Thank you.
Great question, Leonie. So she's 34 weeks. How soon is too soon to be organised? Can you be too organised? And then just lastly, what she said as well, all birth plans can look different. So can it be printed? Can it be digital? What do you think you could recommend?
Tell it ASAP. As quickly as possible. Get it ready now.
As soon as you do the pee on the stick, write it out.
Emily's going to be on it next time, aren't you? Like, it's going to be done. It's going to be done. And like, there is no right or wrong. So it's important that if you are someone that at 20 weeks is enormously anxious about birth and, you know, likes to research, likes to have depth of knowledge, my goodness, start it as, you know, as early as possible. Because remember, like we said, like, this isn't just about having a list of stuff that you want. This is about using it to unpick and inform yourself and educate yourself about all of the potential possibilities and twists and turns. So early is fantastic. In terms of then having something formulated and written down, you can absolutely write it down or have it electronically. It's useful to think that your birth, the person that you meet when you first arrive at hospital, or if you're having a home birth, comes to your house, may not be the person that stays with you for the entirety of that sort of journey. So something where it's mobile, and that's where sometimes having it written down or printed out is handy, because it can be kind of passed from person to person, or there can be multiple copies of it. But making sure that it isn't just that like set in stone, almost like shopping list style, and that it actually explores the things that really matter. So you've got depth of those things that are important to you, really thinking about those things that perhaps aren't plan A but do happen. We know like 1 in 3 first-time mums will have an instrumental birth, for example. 1 in 3 births are an induction of labour. So we can't bury our heads around those things. We need to unpick them and understand them. And that really needs to come into a birth plan. So if those things do feel concerning to you, absolutely start it earlier. That's perfect. If, like Emily, you all of a sudden go into labour way before that, you can communicate stuff that are important to you, like you did with delayed cord clamping. So don't feel like it's got to be written down and then it's set in stone, because that's not the case at all. And also on a birth plan, make sure you use that to go through with your birth partner what you want them to do for you, like their roles and responsibilities, the things that are going to be helpful, so they're not like a lemon kind of stood in the corner wondering what they should be doing.
That's
but
great
they feel
advice.
confident.
Write the birth plan with the birthing partner, so they also know.
So
as a first time mum, I find this interesting. If fingers crossed, if everything goes right and I'm lucky enough to go on and have more children, how much I would do a birth plan. So like I said, control freak, I had plan A, B, C all the way through to Z of everything that could go right or go wrong. I had it in my birth plan. But I wonder for like second or third time parents, when your midwife experience, do they come in with a birth plan at all, or do they just kind of like winging it because they know what happens? Like, it's not this fear of the unknown anymore.
Yeah, such a good one. I think it splits. I think if you have a first birth that you think is kind of positive and empowering, much less of a plan goes into that, and there's a lot more innate trust in your body and its abilities and less unknowns. If families have had a first birth that did feel really difficult or really traumatic, then often a second birth plan becomes really more important, so that we make sure we avoid those traumatic events and unpick what was traumatic about them and put plans in place to avoid that and to make sure that the second experience is positive. So it kind of goes one way or the other, I think, depending on that first experience.
It's quite nice as well to know that even if you did experience, you know, going into NICU early, that might not be your experience the second time round. So although maybe some parents might have had a first labour that was really traumatic, that might not be the case for the second time. So it's not going into that with fear as well. Obviously in your case, Emily, you didn't have time to write a birth plan. So knowing what you know now, would you write a birth plan, or do you think you've kind of got this new laid back approach?
I don't think I'd write a birth plan.
Yeah.
I think I would do what I did last time, and that is just trust my body, and I would be open to anything. But the fact that I've now given birth naturally, for me, a huge thing is obviously trying to calm myself from getting so worked up that it could happen again, because I never was given any answers. There's no rhyme or reason. It might just be the fact that I give birth early. I can't carry full term, but it may have just been a one-off. So for my experience next time, it's going to be a really weird one, because I'm going to be so nervous that I'm going to give birth early again. But there's the other flip side. They'll be watching me so closely, and they'll be doing things or I can do certain things, although I don't know what it is I can do, but so they said that they can do certain things to help me carry longer. So like even if they can get me to 30 weeks or 32 weeks, every week would count really.
Yeah,
Imagine
it's
how long 40 weeks will feel next time.
I know, I'm going to be huge.
I'm over it. I'm
You'll be
bored.
like, I'm still pregnant.
yeah, I know. But that is kind of one thing about having a preterm baby, is like you said, there are so many reasons as to why it can happen, but also a lot of the time they have no idea why, and they can't give you an answer. So it's a bit like when a boyfriend breaks up with you and you're constantly racking your brain as to why.
It's not me, it's
I'm
you.
never going to know. I'm never going to have the answer.
It's not for you to know.
No, it's a guessing game, Is it because of that? Is it because I ate that? Is it because I drank that? And no, it's none of those things. It's just because Mother Nature.
Exactly. And there's not any blame on you as a parent. It just might be that's just the way, that was just your journey. You said about trusting your instincts and your intuition, and with your experience, was there like a moment in your body where you were like, this is my instincts? Like, did you have a feeling like I need to push? Or when you had that first show where you're like, this doesn't feel quite right, like I want to go to the hospital?
I remember when I first went in there, they had a triage when you're pregnant, and you can go in, and it's amazing. You can go in whenever you're feeling anxious or nervous and you want to check the baby, or you feel like you need to get some medical advice. They are amazing places. And one thing I will say, don't be embarrassed if you want to go in there 20 times, you go in there 20 times. If you want to sit on that monitor for as long as you want, you do it, because that's what they're there for. And I remember thinking, oh gosh, like, do I really need to go in to see if the baby's okay for reduced movement, or am I just going mad? Don't worry if you're going mad or you think you're going mad, just go.
Yeah.
Ultimately that is what they're there for. And the midwives in there, made me feel very welcome. So again, even if you're not sure, because there is a fine line between, am I being over a bit dramatic, or is this my instinct and intuition? Be safe, don't be sorry.
From my experience, I had a couple of moments like that during my pregnancy as well, where I phoned triage and I was like, am I overthinking this? Am I being this like obsessive, annoying new mum? And anytime I rang, the midwives were so helpful, and they said, just come in, pop in, it's not a big deal, this is what we're here for. Pip, how important is it as parents for us to trust our instincts like that and be confident in, no, this is my intuition, there's something in my body, I'm trusting my gut here?
Do you know what, if anyone takes anything away from this podcast, it's got to be that, like, trust that instinct. It's a real thing, that like maternal instinct, and even that paternal instinct for dad listening as well. Like, if you've got any doubt, and sometimes you can't even pinpoint it, but you're like, something just isn't quite right, like there's just this niggling thing, always act on it. I always used to say to families on the phone, there's no point me being awake all night on labour ward if you're sat at home awake worried. Like, there's literally no point. Always come in, and 9 times out of 10 everything's fine. But actually on that occasion where it isn't, there's things that we can do that can be really transformative. So always trust that instinct and never worry about annoying anyone. It's our job. It's what we're here to do.
Thinking back to my birth, so I was in the pool, I had a water birth, and because of that they can't check with the baby's heads coming out or how dilated and things you are. And I remember just saying, and mine's all felt like it was in my back, and I remember just feeling like, I really need to go to the toilet, guys, like I need to push something here. And the midwives were like, yeah, that's your baby, like you should push your baby. And I remember just thinking, wow, like I've come into this so unknown. Everything you kind of see in the TV is like your legs are up in stirrups and like the medical professionals are saying push, push. There's never like, you don't really see that calm, like trust in your body, like, okay, this is my time to push. And it actually felt really empowering. I was like, wow, I actually know what to do here. Like the biggest moment of my life, I knew my body was telling me, like, push, your baby's coming just now. So you, Emily, you ended up having a vaginal birth. You had obviously planned a C-section. Did you then find that experience empowering, that you'd thought, right, okay, like I have this feeling, this desire that I need to push now?
Oh my gosh, I can't even explain the feeling. After I gave birth, I thought I could do anything.
You can't tell me nothing.
Literally anything. That is, I felt like
on top of the
it
world.
was so painful, like, but I'll do it again.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know, it's like that
weird
weird thing. You're like, I want to do that. It's like adrenaline.
It's like you're like hyped up for it. I felt as if I was getting like hyped up for like a marathon or like climbing Mount Everest. And I was like, wow, if I can do that, I can do absolutely anything. Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, granted, she wasn't a big 8-pounder, but still, I was like, you know, it's just this, it is incredible. And the weirdest bit about birth and giving birth, which I never even knew because obviously this was not a part of my plan, was straight after the baby's born, the contractions stop. Just like that. The pain goes. And it's like done. And you're like, oh. Okay.
But then you need to give birth to the placenta and you're like, oh, and no one told me about that.
Well, lucky mine just slipped out. It's very small, but
that was good. Yeah. In those situations then, Pip, where things don't go to plan and decisions are taken out of your hands, how can you advocate for yourself in scenarios like that?
Yeah, I love that. So I'm of the thought process that decisions should always be in your hands because this is your body and your baby. But that can only be true if you understand the decisions. So ask questions, ideally be informed ahead of time, because you guys know in the throes of labour, if someone starts talking to you about something you've never heard of before, it's really hard to like process that and reflect on it and make a properly balanced decision. So always try and have that information beforehand and then ask questions at the time. A tool that we often talk about just because it's so easy to remember and birth partners can have this like printed out or on their phone is called Brain. So you literally can run through. So if, for example, I was like, we'd now recommend like a forceps birth or we'd recommend inducing you can think, right, what are the benefits to that? What are the risks to that? Are there any alternatives? Because let me tell you, it's never black and white. We often think it's a case of do it or don't do it, but there's always this like grey area in between. What's your intuition telling you? Because as we spoke about, that is immensely powerful. And then N is what if we do nothing? And sometimes that is an option as well. What if we just watch and wait for a little bit? What if we just observe, even if that's 10 minutes? And then we sometimes pop an E on the end, a brain E. And that's for, is it an emergency? Because if it is a real emergency, which isn't super common, but if it is a real emergency, how can we still ask those questions, but in a quicker way? So sometimes that someone might be taking some bloods from you or helping you get in a gown, but we can still talk at the same time. We're really good multitaskers. So knowing that you can still go through that brain, but we're just going to speed it up a little bit. But then that control stays in your hand. And I know we've all mentioned loving control, and I was exactly the same with mine. I wanted control. And there's a difference, I think, between feeling out of control and feeling like you don't have control. So if we write down like a plan A birth, and if that doesn't happen, we've lost control. But actually, if we understand all our options, we don't feel out of control, even if things aren't going to plan A. So it just comes back to, again, having that like full understanding.
I would say that was fully my experience because I did hypnobirthing, and my hypnobirthing teacher was also who I ended up having as a doula. And a doula is an additional birthing partner. I was obviously really privileged that I had access to that because there's obviously a cost implication that comes with that. The main motivation for that was me because I thought in labour, if I'm not able to advocate for myself, I know for a fact my husband is going to be throwing a fit in the corner, rocking back and forward. He's not got a Scooby, what we've just educated ourselves on for 9 months. So there are other options like that to have an additional birth partner like that. What are your opinions on doulas, and do you think that can be beneficial if people have got the access to it?
Yeah, so that is like the perfect example of using a doula. So as we say, doulas are like a paid birth support partner. So if like you identify that actually for my partner, taking on the role of a birthing partner, which is a really important role, it's not just a bystander. And actually we know that having a good supportive birth partner can reduce the chance of all sorts of interventions. So it's a really important role. So if actually you think, oh, they do want to be there, but actually that real hands-on advocative role isn't wasn't right for them. So important to have that honest conversation and be like, how else can we pick that up? Sometimes that might be through a doula, like you say, if you've got the financial means to pay for a birth support, or it might be like a friend, a mum friend, your mum, your sister, whoever. It doesn't even have to be female. Like people have their, you know, their dads or different people present, but just thinking actually who is going to be that person is really, really important.
I think as well, knowing that like the birth isn't happening to you, like you're not passive in this, like your voice does really matter. So say you don't have that support and you don't have a doula or anything, I do find that even when I went into it, because I did do hypnobirthing, I knew a lot more than what I did when I first fell pregnant, just like in terms of like some medical terms that I never knew that sound quite scary, but if I heard them in the back, like, okay, I know what that is, that's not scary, that's just like medical jargon. So I think a lot of going into labour is just like having knowledge is power. It sounds so cliche, but I do think there's so much power in just having as much information as possible. And I've wrote down this plan A, this is what I would like to happen, but if it doesn't happen, here's XYZ that can happen. So we're talking about planning and getting organised, and kind of one of the first things you think of when you're going into labour is your hospital bag. I'm assuming, Emily, that didn't happen for you because you did go early. Did you have a hospital bag packed, or were you just grabbing stuff quickly?
I had a pair of thongs, an extra pair of thongs in my bag, because I did not think I was going into labour. So I did grab just something in case I had to stay an extra night. And I had refused to get granny pants so far. I was like,
they're so ugly. They're so
ugly.
comfy.
I don't feel
they're so ugly.
I wasn't at that point yet where I had to do that. So I was like, I'll put a pair of thongs in the bag. And my midwife, after I gave birth, genuinely said to me, oh, have you got some pants? I was like, yeah, I've got some in my bag. She went, right, I'll get them out for you. She picked them up. She was like, no, these aren't going to work.
No, they're going to cut you in half all over again.
I didn't realise that after birth you bleed, like for 8 weeks or whatever it is. I had no idea. So I was like, oh yeah, my thongs will be fine. Anyway, so my advice is just get that hospital bag packed and ready. But also don't stress about it too much, because what is it? Pair of pajamas. And you don't need a lot, really. You get fixated on these TikToks about, you had the special packs with the labels, didn't you?
I wanted to set an environment for my birthing suite, so I wanted it to feel like I was like in space and I was like floating around. So I'd got battery operated candles, 150 individual battery operated candles, and I thought, okay, when I go into labour, what I'll do is I'll get Andy, my husband, to go in and he'll set the room up and he'll individually turn on every single candle, so that when I went in it felt like I was almost kind of like,
I love it.
Everyone was like,
you're in a spa,
like,
you're not in the labour suite, you're in a spa.
Do you think those candles got took out that hospital bag? So now I've actually got 150 battery operated candles. I'm like, I don't really know what to do with them, so if anyone needs them, let me know and I'll post them to you. So Pip, for like your basic standards, because I do think overpacking is so common with your hospital bag. I genuinely hardly used half of the stuff.
You don't need
my big granny pants, they were great. We had to pack them because you do bleed for after pregnancy as well, so it would be great for you to touch on that, Pip. And then also, what do you recommend? Like, what are the must-haves for your hospital bag?
Yes, you're so right. Don't overpack. But equally, the environment stuff is really important. I was the same. I had like little spa setups. So I get that. It is really important. But remember, whatever you don't use, when you get home with a new baby, you've got to unpack. And that is the worst job ever.
It's actually the worst chore.
It's even worse than the packing.
Mine stayed unpacked, honestly, for about 8 weeks. And I thought, oh no, I need to tackle that now, right? Like, she's like 2 months and that bag's still packed.
So keep it simple. I always think keep it separate. So like mum stuff, baby stuff, birth partner stuff, because typically it's not you going through the bag. So we're really great, aren't we? And like meticulously packing everything. And then someone else comes in and just like rifles through it and everything's all over the hospital floor. So keep it simple. So you're like, oh yeah, my stuff is in that section or in that bag. But think about, you need something to wear during birth. If you're planning on using a pool, then sometimes just like a bikini top or a crop top or something like that.
At the beach.
It's great. Yeah, basically. Literally a spa. A spa on the beach.
I actually was trying on like what bikini tops fitted my boobs before, and I was like, will this look cute in the pool? This one has to be black because I'm going to be pale because I haven't fake tan, so I'll have to do this one.
I love that. My midwife was my friend, and she said to me, if you want me to suture your vagina after you've had a baby, you better make sure you sort out your toenails. So I did. As I went into labour, I made sure they were all painted nicely. And then after being in the pool for hours, I was like, oh, I'm really sorry, I did make an effort with my toenails.
And now they've all soaked off.
But now it's all come off and they look awful again.
What does suture your vagina mean?
Put stitches in afterwards. So if you have
that's like the proper word for it, suture.
Okay.
But you're just getting like stitched up.
Same thing. Not as scary as it sounds. That's a
like,
podcast
what?
for another day.
What is that? Yeah.
But yeah, making sure you've got your basics. So something to wear during labour and birth, something that's comfortable, breathable. You don't want like irritating labels and stuff. Something to wear afterwards. So big cotton pants and pants that come up high. I know they're not glamorous, but if you have a cesarean section, especially if it's unplanned, the low rise pants literally sit on where your scar would be. So like go up a size and then go up a size again. Make them dark coloured or black and make them big. Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, super glamorous.
Super glamorous. And then big pads. So not like the little period panty liners, but like big chunky maternity pads. Big pads, big pants. Something comfy to wear afterwards. Maybe like a spare change for getting home. Typically, people only stay in hospital for like a day or two, a night or two. So you don't need like your all-inclusive 2-week holiday bag. I promise you, you'll regret it afterwards. Keep it simple. And then for babies, nappies, some cotton wool or some fragrance-free wipes. A couple of outfits. Again, they don't need their whole wardrobe. To start with, often you'll have them skin to skin for ages, just with a blanket over you, so they don't even get through that many clothes. For your birth partner, snacks, something to stop them smelling if you're in for like a little while. So change of clothes, bit of deodorant and toothpaste. Snacks and entertainment. Some families will have like an induction of labour, so they might be in for 2 days before they're even really in labour, and that's really boring. So have stuff to keep you busy and to keep you entertained. And then environment stuff. So you might not need 150 battery operated candles.
Recommend it.
That is quite a few, but if you want to create that environment, fantastic. Have some fairy lights, or have, you know, maybe like 5 or 6 battery operated
Don't need
candles.
150. No.
I took like a little mini diffuser in with us
Yeah.
with some like essential oils that I like. So definitely have those things that make you feel calm and relaxed. A long phone charger, super practical. But if you end up on a postnatal ward, the beds are big and the phone sockets tend to be behind you. So a long phone charger so that you can charge your phone. A straw for easy drinking, because drinking is really important. And during labour or when you've got a baby, it's really awkward. So if you've got a straw, it's easier. And then something nice for afterwards. I always say, like, pack your favourite toiletries. So like your after shower, just have like that shower gel that just feels a bit nice and a bit precious, because you'll be feeling like you deserve it at that
Flip
point.
flops.
Flip-flops. You don't want to be
That's
walking
a
on
good
hospital
one.
floors.
Great tips.
Yeah.
I washed all of my pajamas and everything that I was going to wear in the detergent that I used, so that it smelled like home. So I had like a little bit of comfort. And I liked your tip as well, Pip, about packing the bag with your birthing partner, because you're not going to be rifling through things.
Yeah.
I also packed my things in little like bags with little labels on it as well, that
Yeah.
kind of helped. But also, if you're in a situation like you, Emily, like you said, Pip, you're not often in the hospital for that long. You can nip home and get things. The hospitals do also provide you with things as well.
Absolutely.
So if you're not super organised and a control freak like me, don't stress about it, because the hospital are there to support you. And Amazon next day delivery, sometimes same day delivery is a thing.
Yeah,
So we
that's
don't
the
need to
thing.
stress
We
too
don't
much
need to
about
fill
it.
our house with stuff, because we can literally get it the next day. I'm also a little bit of the control freak nature as well. And one of my big worries was if I needed some care after birth and I was separated and then my husband was left with our baby. So I had a little bag that was like his bag. So it had like some colostrum in so he could feed the baby. I talked to him about skin to skin, and like an outfit that he could get the baby dressed in. So it was like his little bag. So we didn't have to think about rummaging
That's a good
through.
idea.
But that was like his little safety net. So you might not have known where anything else was in the bag, but he had
He knew where his
his
bag
like
was.
immediate bag,
Yeah.
just in case.
Great tips. Okay, guys, so we're at our segment now, no time to think. This is a quick fire round. So 1 word answers if you can. If you can't, just say pass. 1 product that you can't live without for Eva.
Probably the Tommee Tippee, but the tiny dummies.
Last message you sent in the group chat related to the baby.
What time are you going to be at my house?
Was that childcare? You were
Send
like,
help.
yeah, who's come to help me with this child?
Yeah.
Where's the village? Yeah.
Where are you? Question mark.
Have you got any nicknames for Eva?
Either the Diva or Stinky Pete.
Okay. Did you have any pregnancy cravings?
Chopped tomato tins
Okay.
in like pasta.
Mm.
Love
pretty
that.
healthy.
Yeah, love that.
Any advice to your pregnant self if you go back and talk to her?
Try not to panic so much. Delete TikTok.
Oh my God, heavy on deleting TikTok,
Yeah.
guys. I'm with you on that. And if you could have packed a hospital bag, what would have been one thing that you would have packed in it?
Pajamas.
And big pants.
Yeah, pants that fit. would be quite a good one.
That leads quite nicely into our segment, Bottle Up a Moment. And Emily, if you can think back through the 10 months of Eva's life, has there been a moment where you were like, that was so magical, I just wish I could bottle that up?
I think probably the first time she giggled.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that.
Mm-hmm. What was it that made her giggle? Something so silly?
A dolly, just holding a dolly, shaking it. She was like finding it hilarious. But yeah, that moment is just like, it's all worth it.
Yeah.
The sleepless nights, the stress.
Mm-hmm.
I think those little moments you just need, don't you? Just to think, okay, this is the whole point.
So following on from our conversation today, then everything that we've spoke about with birth plans, what are your opinions on birth plans? Like, do you think they're bullshit, or do you think there's value in them?
I definitely think there's value in them, but I also think it's hugely important that part of your plan should be to have no plan, in terms of it's important to educate yourself and to know what the options are. However, don't get so fixated on one thing, because things don't go the way you want them most of the time.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's great advice. What about you, Pip?
Yeah, I think they're a great tool for communicating, and they're a great tool for allowing you to unpick all the eventualities and all the options that are out there. They're like your path to educating yourself, but they should never be like set in stone. It should never be like a checklist of I want this, this and this, because that's not the realities of birth. But it's really good to use them to guide you and to have ideas about things that you want and your preferences, and a way of kind of communicating them.
Oh, well, thank you so much for that conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your story, because I'd imagine that was really incredibly difficult, but I think there'll be a lot of parents that resonate with that. So like, it's a gift for you to have shared that story for listeners that are going through it. And Pip as well, thank you for all the medical jargon, because we need to know the information. We need to know the hard truths. And Pip, if people do want to get more educated going into, you know, parenthood and pregnancy, where can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, midwife_Pip. I've also got a podcast, Midwife Pip Podcast, and a book, Midwife Pip's Guide to a Positive Birth. It's all Midwife Pip. Not very original, but it keeps it easy.
We'll catch you there again. Great, fantastic. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Parents, You've Got This and We've Got You. You can find Tommee Tippee on socials, so Insta, TikTok, YouTube. Just click the links in the description below. And also do visit Tommee Tippee's website. There's loads of new advice for parents, brilliant products that I use day to day. And I'm very excited to say that the podcast has an exclusive 15% discount. So at checkout, use You've Got This 15. You can get 15% off at TommeeTippee.com. You've got this and we've got you.